in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, it's one thing if you don't like ICE, and that's a pretty radical thing. ICE, Immigration's Customs Enforcement. Barack Obama was handing out medals to the leadership of ICE when he was president of the United States, and he was deporting people like crazy. But it's become very, very fashionable and kind of almost mandated that you say abolish ICE if you're a Democrat, even if you're a Trump-hating Republican. I saw Bill Kristol the other day say abolish ICE on his Twitter. Abolish ICE. Bill Kristol, who laughed at people who said, hey, maybe the Iraq war isn't necessary. I remember he laughed, he scoffed at the notion that war was going to take a long time and would ultimately not be successful. He was on that big smug guy with that silly little smile, one of those perpetual smile guys, right? Always smiling inappropriately no matter what. So Democrats ridicule law enforcement, but there's something additional here. Mamdani actually gives the address of law enforcement. That building where the terrorist attack took place this week, yesterday, he goes around talking about 26 Federal Plaza. 26 Federal Plaza as if it's some sort of torture chamber inside. He gives this phony story about his father and how worried he was that he wouldn't come out, as if his father had been detained at Gitmo or something like that. And I don't know if we've had this before, where it's like, imagine if he was talking about the World Trade Center all the time. You know, guess what? The World Trade Center has, or used to have, FBI in there, Port Authority police, all kinds of federal offices. It was a state office building, and they had law enforcement in there. What if he complained about that? One World Trade Center, and then it was hit. 26 Federal Plaza, and it was hit. This is a major thing, folks, and he would do it in grand occasions, like when he was inaugurated. I just don't see anybody linking this. They say, okay, he criticized ICE, that's bad. But what about the actual address and this fantasy of what happened there to his father? You know, his father has it made, okay? Tenured professor at Columbia. This country is amazing, you know? Maybe our vetting should be a little bit more stringent, right? We want to, is it too much to ask for newcomers in this country to like this country, you know what I mean? To be into it a little bit. That's what the oath of citizenship basically kind of requires, right? Oath of citizenship, you have to pledge allegiance to the country. You have to actually even promise to pick up arms for the country. You are even more patriotic, arguably, than people who were born here. People who are born here, generally speaking, you know, other than selective service, and that's automatic now. I don't think that they have to actually make that pledge. Here is Mamdani at a little speech known as his inauguration. That's a big deal speech, right? Talking about 26 Federal Plaza as if it's, solitary confinement at Alcatraz. Cut 9, please. Cut 9.
Sat claustrophobic on a stalled N train just after Atlantic Avenue and waited in quiet terror for my father to emerge from 26 Federal Plaza.
Stop.
The city where
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? In terror that he would not come out of the passport office, for crying out loud. I've been to that building a million times for a Social Security guard, for a passport. It's not Guantanamo Bay. Hey, stop everything. The Nassau County Executive, Bruce Blakeman, Republican nominee for governor, joins us right now. His campaign is red hot. It looks to me like Kathy Hochul is flailing. County Executive Blakeman, welcome back. How are you? How's the race?
The race is going great. Kathy Hochul's in a panic. We have a tremendous amount of momentum. People are rallying around us. Not just Republicans, but independent voters, common sense Democrats. Every day I get Democrats come up to me and say, I've never voted Republican before. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote Republican this year. Our party has gotten crazy. They don't represent our values anymore. And nobody illustrates that more than Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani.
You know, when Kathy Hochul shows her face, I think she really digs whatever hole she's in deeper. She is not impressive. And just like you say, she seems a little bit panicky and I think desperate. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. She's, as you said, flailing away at me. She has nothing.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Bruce? Bruce, County Executive Blakeman, can you hear me? Oh, darn it. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Bruce Blakeman, can you hear me, sir? Okay, we're going to call him right back. Hey, as we call him back, here's a little example of Kathy Hochul flailing. She's talking about these data centers, and David Sachs, who's one of the great technologists of the world, is basically offering commentary every step of the way. Listen to this. Cut 11, please. Cut 11.
That is why today I'll be signing the nation's first ever statewide moratorium on hyperscale data centers.
Everything she's saying there is a false accusation on the data centers. So let's just go one by one. So she's saying that they eat up all of the power. Well, yeah, I mean, look, if you connect to the grid without producing more power and you force data centers to compete with residential ratepayers, then yeah, you could drive up utility prices. However, if you do what Chamath said and let them build behind the meter, then they bring their own power. And that's what the president has advocated for since the beginning of his administration, is let the AI companies become power companies. So that is the way to solve the energy problem or the utility problem. Then she's talking about eating up land. The reality is these data centers are a model of land use efficiency. We have a ton of land in this country, obviously. The supposed noise pollution, that's largely made up. That can be dealt with. You obviously don't want to put these things right next to a residential area, but create a little bit of distance and it's fine. The whole water consumption thing is largely a hoax.
Total hoax.
Modern data centers recirculate the water. One final thing just on the point that Hochul was making, she said it created a lot of pollution. Natural gas, which is how most of these data centers are powered, is one of the most clean burning sources of power that we have. These data centers have become the scapegoat for all of the angst that people have about AI. When you compare economic impact to all these different things, data centers are, like, honestly one of the best things we could be building as a nation.
That's pretty interesting. Did you know any of that stuff? I bet you Kathy Hochul doesn't know any of that stuff. And I got to admit, I didn't know any of that stuff. So you build it what they call behind the meter. That's fascinating. All right. So AI. Look, I think those windmills are more annoying than the data centers. The data centers don't have huge towers. You could argue that cell phone towers, and nobody's making any complaints about those things. They have elevation. So this is kind of the wave of the future. We better do it. We better embrace it. Because China, they don't have any of this pushback. They don't have any goofy people like Kathy Hochul. Now, look, I like democracy. I like voting. You know, we got to vote for these people. Unfortunately, sometimes you do get a bozo. That's the problem. All right, what do we say about democracy? It is the worst form of government in the world, except for all the others. Winston Churchill, baby. I am going to also I already told you about what I plan to do about this Mamdani situation, all right? The 26 Federal Plaza stuff is creepy, and I think he should be held to account. You can't go around demonizing the federal government the way he does and not expect any, severe blowback, like a terrorist coming in and trying to destroy the place. Here he is on a live stream. Cut 10, if you don't mind. Cut 10.
What was that day like?
Went into the USCIS building,
26
Federal Plaza, and we had a 3, 4, 5-inch binder with photos and all my well-documented asylum process, and the interview was going okay. And then the bomb drops, and she said, "You missed a hearing, and you've been ordered a final order of removal."
Stop for a second.
That meeting.
Stop. You know, the bomb drops. The bomb drops like rhetorically or in terms of, this is an important meeting. But a bomb literally dropped because of the stuff that you guys have been saying about ICE and the good people who work at 26 Federal Plaza. I have a cousin who actually worked at 26 Federal Plaza. Keep it going, please.
Yes.
You're there with your husband.
Yes.
And that's where you're told that there's going to be immediate removal proceedings.
Yes.
Oh my God! Okay, we can stop that. We believe we have made recontact with Bruce Blakeman, the Republican nominee for governor, Nassau County executive. Mr. Blakeman, welcome back. Sorry about the phone situation. What's it like campaigning upstate? You're a downstate kind of guy. At least you were born down here, I believe. What is it like upstate when you go around? And what's it like up there, period? I haven't been up there in a while.
Well, first of all, the people are energized there. They want to change. People are miserable under Kathy Hochul. It doesn't matter what part of the state I'm in, whether it's Western New York, the Southern Tier, the North Country, Central New York, the Hudson Valley, Long Island, New York City. Everybody feels miserable under Kathy Hochul. We're the most overtaxed state. Our electric costs are 70% higher than the national average, and she's the most pro-criminal governor in the United States. So when I go, like I was up in Syracuse area this past weekend, people are just yearning for change. The reception was great. I had Democrats come up to me and say, I've never voted Republican before, but we're voting for you. Our party has gotten crazy under Mondami and Hochul. So the reception is terrific. Walking around New York City, you would be amazed. People coming up to me, you got to beat her, you got to beat her. So we have a tremendous amount of momentum. Latest poll that came out had us 6 points behind. If we're 6 points behind now with a little over 100 days to go, we're going to win this election.
You know, it's worth remembering that Kathy Hochul, the way she became governor, I mean, Andrew Cuomo picked her as lieutenant governor. And I know you technically get voted for, but nobody really votes for lieutenant governor. It's like, you know, you're just pulling levers. Nobody really thought about her. And she, you know, became governor when Andrew Cuomo resigned. And then, you know, she prevailed over because she was a Democrat. I mean, and it tends to lean Democrat. But now that we've seen her govern, I'm sensing a real opportunity for a change. What do you make of the AI data centers and anything else you want to add in the time we have there?
Well, first of all, she has put a 1-year ban on data centers. This is the fastest growing industry in the world. This is the former once great Empire State. We are now number 50 at the bottom of economic outlook. People are leaving. Businesses are leaving. And the number one fastest growing business in the world, she couldn't figure out how to make it work in New York. I'm already working on it. I've met with local officials. I've met with operators of data centers. The issues that people are concerned about can be addressed, such as utilities. They will provide their own utilities to data centers, and they will also supplement the grid so it'll bring down the cost of electricity for the host community. In addition, they're willing to offer incentives, not ask the government for money. They're willing to give the government money so they can lower real property taxes. So this can be a win-win-win, construction jobs, permanent jobs, and it's the future. And New York, which used to be the leader in economic development, is now dead last under Kathy Hochul. That's why, as you travel around the state, you see people in poverty. You see people who are looking for a new kind of leadership that'll bring economic prosperity, develop new jobs, good-paying jobs, benefits, make it more affordable by putting more money in people's pockets, cutting their taxes, cutting their utility rates. That's how you make it affordable.
As you run, you know, I see kind of mastery. I think you're running a great campaign. And also, you've been around politics and in politics on and off, you know, for a long time. And I feel like all of your skills, all of your insight learned over the years are kind of coming to the fore right now. And this is your moment. Do you have that sense? And I know this is all about the people of New York, but I just feel like you're the man for the moment. You feel that?
You know what? I feel a tremendous responsibility each and every day because I'm not running for a title. I already have a great job. I'm basically a governor. I'm the county executive of a county larger than 8 states. I'm running for our children and our grandchildren to get back to American values, to create economic prosperity, to have safer communities, to cut taxes, cut electric costs. Yes, I do believe that this is my moment, but it's not about me. It's about saving our state, which is in a death spiral. And because I've had so much experience, I have something that you can't buy. It's called wisdom. And I've learned how you govern the best way to get people together, get them to work together. You know, we shouldn't treat business as the enemy. We should treat them as a partner, because they can create the prosperity that we need so that people aren't leaving New York in droves, so businesses aren't leaving in droves, so our kids actually want to live here and prosper here. And we want the next generation to do better than we did. Well, under Kathy Hochul, Zohran Mamdani, that's not possible. That's why I'm running. For my kids, my grandkids, your kids, and your grandkids.
BlakemanForNewYork.com. BlakemanForNewYork.com. Hey, County Executive, before you go, you know who's going to leave New York? Kathy Hochul. When it's time to debate, she does not want to debate you. Do we have a debate on the calendar yet?
I've challenged her, whether it's NBC, ABC, CBS, Spectrum, News 12, you name every media outlet has asked me for a debate. I've accepted all. Kathy Hochul has accepted none. She can't defend her record. And my record has been straight A's. Hers are straight F's. So she's afraid to get on the stage with me. Kathy, come out of hiding. Let's go. Put on your best effort and try to defend that miserable record. I can't wait.
BlakemanForNewYork.com. BlakemanForNewYork.com. Bruce Blakeman, candidate for governor. We thank you. Good luck and stay safe out there. And we will be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, tonight there's going to be a dignified transfer. We believe it's going to be tonight. And now there are 3 KIA, Killed in Action, service members who will be on their way home, their bodies. And what happens is, you've probably seen this on TV before. It's kind of a ritual that goes back decades. But big transport plane and the coffins and the flag, and they're slowly escorted off the plane and into a vehicle, and the families are there, and so are senior members of our government. Sometimes the president, the vice president, secretary of defense, joint chiefs, and it's solemn, and it really, you know, I've covered these before. I keep my mouth shut the entire time. You know, no need to narrate anything that's happening. You can see it. You can see it before your eyes. And there are real people inside those coffins, you know, and this stuff, you know, there's a price to be paid, and there's a risk, a huge risk factor when you join the military and you go somewhere. But it's kind of, we don't want it to happen, but it does happen, and it will happen. It has always happened, and it always will happen in war. It's one of the reasons why you don't want to fight war unless you absolutely have to. And I do believe that this war, our attack on Iran, was 1,000% necessitated. I remember for years now, and I've shown them before, all the headlines that say, you know, Iran is 3 months away from a nuclear warhead. Iran is 6 weeks away from a nuclear warhead. Iran is 6 months away. I've seen that headline a decade ago. All right, so sooner or later they were going to get one. And they were thumbing their nose at the world, thumbing their nose, you know, just like, oh, here we go. You know, like, no one's going to touch us. No one's going to stop us. And I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up. It's true. No one's laid a finger on Iran. The only military action conducted by the United States inside Iran was our botched rescue effort going all the way back to 1980. Do you remember that? We tried to get the hostages out. And, the mission failed. It was horrific. And maybe you've seen the pictures. The C-130 collided with the helicopter, and it was a mess. Now, one of the reasons why it was such a mess, hastily planned, you know, Jimmy Carter, one of the least decisive presidents we ever had, couldn't get his act together. And then there was this jointness. They insisted that it be not only a Marine Corps operation, but an Army operation and an Air Force operation and this and that. Everybody had to have a piece of the pie. And, you know, sometimes you do that, sometimes you don't. A lot of, if you're in the military, anything joint must be good. But everything joint isn't necessarily good. We train together, we practice together, we fight together, but sometimes we're not that good at it. You can make the case, I've heard this made the case before, that we should unify the military. Not have an Army, not have a Marine Corps, not have an Air Force, just have the military all under one umbrella. Because what happens is these little forces, they compete with each other. They compete, they vie for, hey, this was our operation. I actually saw proof of this. It was you guys remember when we got Noriega out of Panama? Yeah, it's like 89, 90, something like that. Noriega was, where was he? He was in the Pope's house. He escaped to not the Pope, the Vatican, the ambassador from the Vatican in Panama City. He goes in there. We conduct a raid to get him out. And when we got him and brought him home, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, makes this long kind of talk about, how successful this was. And he lists every single Army unit that came within 1,000 miles of Panama. The Fighting 85th, the Airborne 82nd, the 103rd Brigade, the 102nd Ice Cream Squadron, the 102nd Band, all this stuff. Every single Army thing, including the hometown baseball team. You know what I mean? The Fighting Screaming Eagles from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of the Fayetteville Bayonets. First place team and the second place team in the AAA League, just everything Army and all these little details. We would also like to give credit to the Air Force and the Navy. Just like, wait, what did I just hear? And this new guy, Dan Kane, who I like, he's smart, but it's kind of in our blood. It's in our DNA. You get these big jobs, you really are primarily representing your service. You like to think that these people are bigger than that. Often they're not. Just the way it is. Maybe we should have one unified. I would hate to see anything happen to my beloved Marine Corps, but there are things that are more important than the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. The military. It really doesn't. You could. I'm just saying you could make the case to have this all in one. Other thing I see happening today. The head of FEMA is back. Federal Emergency Management Agency. Now, what difference does that make? What do I care who the head of FEMA is? And day in and day out, I don't particularly care. But this is a little bit different. I remember when this guy got fired by Trump. He was actually fired by Trump early last year, or maybe a little bit. Let's see here. His name is Cameron Hamilton. And he's back. A year ago, he was fired. Now, Cameron Hamilton, what do we know about him? He's a Navy SEAL, and he's worked in emergency preparedness, right? He's 40 years old. I think he's a Republican. He ran for Congress unsuccessfully, but he's pretty good at this stuff, and they gave him the job, and I guess he had a bit of a big mouth. He was one of these guys who spoke up for his agency, and you all got to speak up for your agencies, but you can't let the agency get bigger. You can't let the agency own you. You got to run that agency. I'm not saying this happened to Cameron. So Cameron Hamilton gets fired by Trump, and now he's getting rehired. And you never see this with any other president. It's like in that Apprentice show, you're fired, but being fired is not the end of the world. It really isn't. And in America, at one point, if you got fired, President Trump did this with somebody else, a guy named Jared Isaacman. He was nominated to be the head of NASA. Turned out that he gave money to Democrats, just like President Trump, by the way. And they found that out. He had a few enemies, so they pulled his nomination. You can't be the NASA chief anymore. And then some time goes by. Elon Musk was disappointed. I was disappointed. This Jared Isaacman, he flies fighter jets during his lunch hour. I mean, he is a titan. He is a defense titan. He owns 100 fighter jets. He has trained air forces all over the world. He does all kinds of He's been to outer space. Isn't that kind of a cool thing for the NASA guy to know what it's like in outer space? So he's been to outer space. They pulled his nomination. Cooler heads prevailed, and they brought him back. Now, this used to be more common than it is today. Today, only Trump. Only Trump. And I'm trying to think of anybody else this has ever happened to. I guess it happens in sports sometimes. But in the olden days, if you were in the military, well, actually, forget that. Today, or just prior to Hegseth showing up, if you are a general, and let's say you're fighting a battle, and maybe you're not fighting it fast enough or hard enough, or you screw up, or you shoot the wrong guy, or something happens, the general is accountable, and the general can be fired. Come back home, you're no longer the commander of that unit. And it is a huge, huge black mark. It's a stigma. It's a disgrace. A friend of mine was actually relieved of command in Iraq during the invasion. And I saw him just prior to the invasion, but I heard he was relieved by General Kelly, who would later go on to become that chief of staff to President Trump, total backstabber. And when they relieved him of command, you know what they did? They said, hand over your weapon. They were afraid he was going to shoot himself, for crying out loud. I mean, that's how big a stigma this potentially is. Now, my friend totally overcame it. And the pettiness of General Mattis and General Kelly, who did that for political reasons. But what I'm trying to say is, up until very recently, if you got fired, that was it. Your career was over and finished. I'm saying fired from a command, not from the military. They weren't fired from the military. It takes 5 years to leave the military. Anyway, back during World War II, you could be fired from a job. Patton got fired. And they put him back in charge of the Fifth Corps. It's not saying that you're a terrible general. It's just saying you screwed this up. Let's take a time out. Maybe you're better suited for a job over here. And I like that. For a guy who has a reputation as being like really harsh, you're fired. He actually also rehires. And it's kind of a beautiful thing, right up there with making peace with your enemies, whether it's Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, J.D. Vance. It's a very beautiful and Christian thing, and we should admire it and emulate it in our own lives. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yes, hello. Yes, it is, isn't it? 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I'm feeling healthier and healthier and healthier. A couple of things. Eating has gotten a lot better. My eating. Almost no soda is going into my body. Which has been interesting. A lot of people I know drink a lot of Diet Coke, but do you wake up to go to the bathroom at night like I used to? I thought it was like a prostate thing, or just a thing of getting older, and that's just going to happen. But I met this guy named Dave Asprey. He's a big tech guy, Asprey. I met him when I was on the Good Day Show, and he has this ambition. He wants to live to be 150 years old. And he has all these techniques and tricks and things that he's doing. And a lot of them are very intriguing and I think pretty healthy. But I was a little skeptical. I said, hey, I would imagine sleep is very important to be 150 years old. He said, oh, yeah, absolutely. Sleep is, well, maybe you can help me. Because I wake up every night, midnight, whatever, a couple of hours in, to go to the bathroom. Now, how do you fix that, tough guy? And he said, well, what do you drink mostly? I said, what do I drink mostly? What, whatever's available. You know what I mean? Do you drink alcohol? Kinda. Okay, when you're not drinking alcohol, what do you like to drink? Back then I was drinking vitamin water. Vitamin water, that stuff? 0-calorie vitamin water. It's just a bunch of crap. There's no vitamins in there. Maybe there are, but it wasn't good for me. He said, stop drinking that stuff. Stick to water and coffee, and you will be able to sleep through the night. And I said, why is that? How do you know? He said, well, when you go to bed with that stuff in your bladder, and let's say your bladder isn't full, it doesn't care. Your body doesn't care that the bladder isn't full. It cares that there are toxins in your body, and it wants to get rid of them. So in that liquid, in the booze, in the vitamin water, in all that junk I've been drinking, it just needs to get it out, not because the bladder is full. And sometimes it'll trick you. Okay, the bladder is full. I don't know exactly how it would do that, but you have the sensation that you got to go to the bathroom, and it wants to get rid of the toxins. And I just thought that was amazing. You know, when you get the feeling like you have to go to the bathroom, it's not technically that your bladder is full. There's some other kind of signaling stuff is going on there. I don't know exactly how, but whatever. It sends a signal to the brain. It's time to go to the bathroom. So that has improved my sleep dramatically. I mean, can you imagine that? I went from waking up every single night and not even worried about it. I mean, this is what it is. And that's about 15 years ago. And I stopped drinking so much crap, and I don't wake up anymore. It's a beautiful thing. The other thing I'm learning is exercise in short bursts. You don't have to exercise for 2 hours. For instance, yesterday I went on a run. It was a 4-minute run, but I ran full blast in the heat. I walked for about a half mile, then I ran full blast for 4 minutes. And it was probably the best workout I ever had. I am getting lean and mean, and I cannot wait to take off my shirt at the appropriate moment in the appropriate place. And by that I mean in public. Because right now it's not particularly appropriate for me to take off my shirt in public, you know? I have a few issues in the stomach region, right? Just a few. Got a lot of, I saw Brit Hume on TV last night. Brit Hume. There's a lot I like about Brit. Can be a little bit of a snob, kind of that old money vibe you get from Brit sometimes. Brit. What kind of name is Brit? But he said, President Trump promised us no more forever wars. No more forever wars. And now we have a forever war. Well, no, we don't have a forever war. It is a 4-month and 3-week war. I hear everybody saying it's 6 months. No, it's not. Stop saying that. March, April, May, June, plus 20. 4 months plus 20 days. Okay, 21 days. And we haven't been shooting for half of those days. Half of those days we haven't been shooting. So it's a pretty short war. I know what the forever war is like, Britt. All right? You may remember I had my ass over there in Iraq and places like that. And not like, 20 minutes Bret Baier style. I went over there to eat dirt. And it was not pleasant. And I had to go over there and beg, borrow, and steal to get some of my pieces on the special report show because Greg focuses a little bit too much on the negative aspects of this war. Well, why don't you come on over here and show me where all the birthday parties are and roller rinks? There weren't any. Anyway, the people who were complaining about forever wars, I find them very, very disingenuous. There's something else that's going on. We have strong support, and this has been overlooked or downplayed, whatever you want to say, all of these allies we have in the Middle East. Before it felt like we were kind of in a soft war with the Middle East. All these countries love us. Qatar, that Sandy or somebody, Sandra called about yesterday. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain. Now, we've had longstanding, did I say Qatar? We've had longstanding relationships with these people. And it's always been kind of, not always, but it's been better than a lot of people realize. But do you remember President Trump went over there last year and he met with all those guys? That was like a big deal. And to have those countries on our side in a shooting war with Iran, that's a big deal. And he's not getting enough credit for it. I like it. I like it where we are. Hey, let's hope tonight at that dignified transfer, everything goes well. And everything will go well. Somber. People will behave appropriately. Who remembers when Joe Biden couldn't wait to get out of there and looked at his watch? looked at his watch. He snuck a look at his watch in the middle of a funeral. What else did he do? All he would do is talk about Beau Biden as if his loss was somehow more important or more relevant. Beau Biden was quite a guy, but he died peacefully in a hospital in America. And Joe would often lie and say that his boy Beau died in Iraq. I got a whole ream of examples of Joe Biden lying about that. That's the thing about politicians. You know, they exaggerate. You know, something, they just try to make a poignant story more, right? I lost my son Beau in combat. You know, like, why do you have to juice it up like that? When you do, you bring dishonor to yourself and even, well, not to your son. I have no problem with Beau. Nice guy. The late, probably great Beau Biden. Okay, we'll be right back. 800-848-9222.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?